Cody, I'm proud of you. You haven't let these 2 wins go to your head. Sheldon Keefe for Jack Adams. I mean, for him, that's pretty good. Hi, kids. Victorious puppies. This team is ruining my life. Why do I watch hockey? Stress relief. We can, and we will. Victory, puppies, boys. How many goals does Tyson Barry have with Sheldon Keefe? 1, 2. That's right. How many wins do the Leafs have with Sheldon Keefe? 1, 2. Almost head faked you there, Iggy. How many Vezina trophies does Cody Ceci have? We're working on it. Leafs win 5-3, but 4-3, but 5-3 over the Colorado Avalanche. Man, that is a good win. You can easily point to this and that. Man, they won. Ken Reed of Sportsnet, who is an excellent old school follow, talked about something with broadcasting that I guess I never noticed. Maybe I'm too young. Goals and highlights and stuff like that. It used to always be about the incredible ability of the player who pulled off the highlight, not the fault of the defending team. So was this win perfect? No, but at this point the Leafs cannot be choosers here. And man, before we get started, I just want to say something about the Colorado Avalanche, man. This is not going to stop me from getting dunked on a daily basis for my Joe Sakic tweet from a few years ago where I said he should be fired. I also said Mark Bergevin should have been fired, and Habs fans have left me alone for that one because they're like, no, we thought that too. The Colorado Avalanche, though, with all the injuries they have, Gabriel Landeskog, their captain, Mikko Rantanen, their big RFA of the summer, they are still a wagon. Really, it was just a, 7-minute lapse in the first period there where they just fell out of the game. Philip Grubauer obviously allowing the 4 goals and then getting yanked after the first period. I mean, that's not a great performance, and yeah, maybe he should have been yanked, but he was also injured recently, and I'm not totally sure he was 100% himself. That being said, I'm not sure what he was supposed to do on any of the 4 goals, but we'll get to that. The Colorado Avalanche are an excellently built, deep team that I think is going to win the Western Conference. I really do. And for so many of you, for the rest of the game, you're like, who is this Pavel Francouz think he is? And Avalanche fans go, it's Francouz. Leaf fans go, sure, I believe you. The question still remains. Cale Makar is a monster. Nazem Kadri looks like an excellent fit in Colorado. Please take care of him for us. And Nathan MacKinnon, I'm sorry, that's a top 5 player in the NHL any given night. And who would have thought the goalie to stop him would be Cody Ceci? Let's talk about the game. Sure enough, Nathan MacKinnon just flying around the Leaf zone because he can. What are you gonna do, catch him? There was one play during the game where he was side by side with Kasperi Kapanen and he made Kapanen look slow. And the Leafs, they're already just trying to cling on, but they do their best to at least force MacKinnon into a position where he's at least in not that threatening of a spot. So he just takes this like lazy slapper from like the center blue line. Freddie. I don't know. I think that's a nightmare of a shot. It probably sunk on him, but oh, Freddie. I don't want to move the goalposts for Sheldon Keefe because a huge criticism of all of Babcock's teams was that they did not start on time to start this season, but boy, you'd like your goalie to have that one, and the Leafs are down 1-0. Which brings me back to what Ken Reed said. I don't think that was an issue of coverage, do you? And then you look at how Freddie Anderson has played all season, you look at how he played for the rest of the game, and you go, well, was it Freddie? I know it looked terrible, but what if it was this weird knuckler that only a guy like Nathan MacKinnon and a few others could pull off? That wasn't some guy fighting to stay in the league, that was Nathan MacKinnon, and it might have happened for a reason. But after that, the Leafs woke up a bit. Okay, here they go, they're flying, and William Nylander's got a breakaway, and he's going 5-0, He doesn't quite get it to go, but then it's a nice 4th line shift. Nick Shore is on this line of randomly 3 centers. Paul Hendrick had the 4th line on his game sheet as Nick Shore, the right-handed Nick Shore on the left, Frederic Gauthier in the middle, and left-handed Pierre Engvall on the right. I don't know what it ended up being, but Gauthier's the center, Shore's the center, and in the minors, Engvall was the center. Nick Shore taking the place of another Nick Patan spot in the lineup because Sheldon Keefe saw that Nick Shore's from Denver, Colorado, and the Leafs only play the Avs in Colorado once per season, and he's got one mission as Leafs coach: make hockey fun to play again. That and figure out how to break out the puck without losing it. But mostly the fun part. And this was a super messy play, but it was a typical 4th line goal in that regard. Nick Shore working to keep hold of the puck. He's working with Justin Hall, who ends up getting it. Hall goes to throw a pass. It looked like it could have just as easily gone straight to Frederick Gauthier, but it goes right through him and hits Pierre Engvall behind the net. Nick Shore then, who all he's got to do is get the puck and take a couple quick strides, and then he's right in front of the net. He's tapping his stick and he's calling for the puck. The rookie Engvall looks him off and keeps going. Engvall sees some space on the other side of the net, so he decides to take it. Oh, he's got Jake Muzzin sneaking behind him. I bet he's gonna spin and pass it to Jake. Nope, he spins and fires it right on net to Nick Shore, who he knows is there because he called for the thing in the first place, and he bangs it in. The hometown boy ties the game 1-1. As fans might go, Zadorov should have been harder on Shore in front. I think it was Zadorov, and maybe you're right. But that was a nice little creative play by the fourth line. And Pierre Engvall, his first career assist is a pretty nice one. First career goal is a shorthanded breakaway. First career assist is a spin and fire from the corner. That giraffe's got style, man. Not long after, you know, it's been hard over the nightmare past month to remember that the Leafs have some nightmares of their own. Auston Matthews gets a puck shot. It is stopped. He fishes it out of the corner himself, which is something he's done so much better lately. Just a stick-lifting wizard. It's something the Leafs do extremely well when they're on. They did it in the early part of the playoffs anyway, but when they're not going, it just goes away. Puck's at the point, finds its way to Tyson Barry, who gives it back to Auston Matthews. Now, what do you do? Matthews is in the slot, but it's like the high slot. Again, it's like the McKinnon thing. He couldn't possibly score from there, right? But what do you do as a defender? So the guy in front of him is JT Compher, right? So what do? You probably want to block that shot, right? For Matthews, he's like, go ahead and try, because he's showing one angle, then all of a sudden he disappears behind the player, and Grubauer is left to guess where that puck's going now. Matthews has fired it. It's already too late. Between the arms and in the back of the net. Matthews wants guys to try to block his shot because he basically uses them as a shield, sometimes even shooting through them. The other option is just let him have the shot, and that's not a great option either when it's Auston Matthews. That is why he has 16 goals. That is why you pay a superstar like that. Why on earth would you not play that player as much as possible? But just like that, it's a 2-1 Leafs lead. I don't know if you can tell the coffee is good today. Now, shortly after, the Leafs are on the power play, and sometimes a broadcast call is a little too perfect. Auston Matthews bursting into the Avalanche zone with speed, and Jim Houston says that, and he goes, with no drop back. And I'm like, hey, yeah! Matthews kind of leaves it for Tavares, who finds himself fighting off two guys, and he doesn't get an assist on this goal, but he does such a good job shoveling it, getting the puck available. Matthews gets it to Nylander. Nylander in front! No way, dude! No way! Tyson the Blueberry, baby! 3-1 power play goal! How about Sheldon Keefe, eh? How about Sheldon Keefe? How does he get Tyson Barry to do it? Other than the fact that Tyson Barry did this for over half a decade and then sucked for about a quarter of a season. They fired that guy and then they brought in Keefe. This, to me, is the downfall of Mike Babcock as the Leafs coach. He was so necessary at the beginning, whipped them into shape, got them disciplined and everything, but he just had this terrible habit of shoving square pegs into round holes. First preseason game, and I know it's the preseason, but it was such a sticking point for a lot of fans and clearly members of the Leafs dressing room. First preseason game, Jason Spezza is probably the best Leaf on the ice, which you don't expect him to be most games. I mean, the guy's in his mid to late 30s, he's in the twilight of his career, but he comes to Toronto for less than $1 million to be Jason Spezza. And then after the game, Babcock's like scolding him, oh, well, we got to figure out what he is, and he's got to kill penalty. Why? Why? He's not a penalty killer, Mike. Has he ever been a penalty killer? Okay, has he recently, like within the last half decade, been a penalty killer? And then for the past month or so, I've had Avalanche fans, Drew, mostly producer Drew, go, what's going on with Barry? And I'm like, well, he's not really making the defensive mistakes that were promised. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. But he's not doing anything else either. And the big problem with last year's Leafs especially is they didn't play their top power play unit enough. They had so many ridiculous weapons and they're taking them off after like 50 seconds. Like, what are you doing? And so they throw Barry onto the second unit this year and it's just not the same. It's not even close to the same because they're already playing the first power play unit more than they were last year, which they should be. So now you're giving Tyson Barry, like one of the most gifted power play quarterbacks, at very least, power play defenseman in the entire league. You're giving him like
40 seconds to get the puck in the middle of a line change and get a zone entry, and there's no chance for sustained pressure there. You're gonna get one, maybe two chances tops. And look at the 2 goals that Barry has under Keefe. They're not bombs from the blue line. They're especially not muffins from the blue line. They're him screaming in. That's what the Avalanche and Nathan MacKinnon specifically did so well for Barry as members of the Avs. MacKinnon would scream in like a fighter jet. He'd get everyone back on their heels, and Tyson Barry would swoop in and clean up the scraps. And credit where credit's due, William Nylander, who I think has spent most of the season on the second power play unit, had the awareness to be like, here he comes, and he hits him with a perfect pass. I'm sorry, guys, I can tell I'm talking faster today. I'm jacked about this team, finally. I wasn't talking about this team like this 3 games ago, man. Which brings me to an LFR question that I was asked that I think now is the perfect time to answer. Thoughts on Nylander this season? Do you think he's living up to the contract or no? First of all, I thought this was hilarious. When Barry shoots it, Nylander ducked, and that's the type of season that Barry's been having. Luckily, this one went in the net. So the question is specifically related to Nylander's contract. Is he worth the contract? All right, let's go on capfriendly.com. We're going to arrange this by players making a cap hit between $6.5 and $7.5 million. I think that's fair because Nylander is 6.962 whatever, just a hair under $7 million. So let's take all the forwards in the NHL making between $6.5 and $7.5 million and take a look at where Willie ranks in points per game. You take a look at the names above Willie, and there are some, but I mean, there really aren't any surprises. You can't look at David Pastrnak. That contract is a unicorn. Bergeron signed his contract God knows how long ago. Tarasenko is a $7.5 million player. He's fantastic. Evander Kane, Patrick Laine, of course. David Krejci's having a nice little season. Braden Point, of course. Max Pacioretty, one of the most underrated goal scorers of the past decade. Ryan O'Reilly just won the Conn Smythe. Nicholas Backstrom, he's Ovechkin's right-hand man, of course. Matthew Tkachuk, he just signed $7 million, of course. But then you look at the names that Willie's above. First of all, he's barely behind Nicholas Backstrom. He's barely behind Matthew Tkachuk. He's ahead of Kyle Connor. He's ahead of Johnny Gaudreau. Joe Pavelski, Anders Lee, that's a captain. Kevin Hayes just signed his $7+ million deal, and he's 27. No one batted an eye at that. Paul Stastny, no one batted an eye. JVR, how many of you said they should have kept JVR? Derek Stepan, Bobby Ryan, and that's it. And some of the names you look at on that list, like Braden Point is a great one, 6.75. Well, he's making less than Nylander. Yeah. 3 years. Once that contract's up, Tampa's going to pay through the nose. That's the trade-off. Matthew Tkachuk, $7 million. Great contract, right? Again, 3 years. He's going to pay through the nose. Kyle Connor's got like the exact same production as William Nylander. His contract goes longer and costs more. I haven't heard anyone complain about that deal because it's a pretty good deal for a pretty good player, man. Listen, I know that points and points per game do not tell the full story of a player's performance. I get it. I chastised William Nylander for a couple lazy plays on one of the most recent podcasts. I get it. But he's on pace for about 26 goals, which would be a career high. He's on pace for 62 points, which would be a career high. And that's about right for his contract. Nylander's got 8 points in his last 8 games, and the reason I point that out is not because the Leafs have actually done pretty poorly over the past 8 games. It's because that's when Mitch Marner got hurt, and that's when William Nylander was expected to pick up the pace. He has. The team around him has very not, or I should say, was very not. They then made a coaching change. It's just mind-blowing to me that this team that has 3 basically $11 million players on it, and Nylander is the cumbersome contract that we talk about. For the production he typically puts up, which this season he's right back to it, and for the term that he got on his contract, it's about right. At very least, give credit where it's due. I think he's stepped up in the absence of Marner, and he's been very good under Keefe. Listen to me wasting all this time. There's still more goals. Jason Spezza. Hey, I still got hands. Look at me in the lineup. Look at us. Who would have thought? Sends it to Kasperi Kapanen because that's what he does. Full send. Barry Boys hit on Philip Grubauer, Kasperi Kapanen with a breakaway goal, and all of a sudden it's 4-1, the most secure and safe lead in hockey. On that note, did you see that Montreal blew a 4-0 lead to the New York Rangers yesterday? Even more strange, you can laugh at them, but it is the third time in the last 11 days a team has blown a 4-0 lead. 2 of those were against Florida. And if I'm not mistaken, in their first game of the season, New Jersey blew a 4-0 lead to the Winnipeg Jets. It's a new league, man. While that breakaway goal from Kasperi Kapanen is nice, the setup from Jason Spezza, dude, that guy's got 8 points in 15 games. He's got more points than Kerfoot in fewer games, more points than Trevor Moore in fewer games, Timashov in fewer games, if you can believe it. He's played fewer games than Dmytro Timashov, twice as many points as Freddie Gauthier in 10 fewer games. On an 82-game pace, Jason Spezza's on pace for 43 or 44 points. There's no justification for healthy scratching him unless it's to rest him on like a back-to-back or something because you're worried about him being near the end of his career. But in terms of actual ability to continue to produce, which is what he does. I don't know who told you he's a penalty killer, but he's not. In terms of that, Jason Spezza should be in the lineup every night. Unless it's some load management thing, which I think is totally justified, and I get it. Otherwise, play that man! The Avalanche put Pavel Francouz in for the second period, and now we watch the Leafs try to contain one of the most explosive teams in the National Hockey League. And it is a fire drill. Not so many odd man rushes, but just constant pressure. Fast pressure from the Colorado Avalanche. There was one odd man rush that I remember, and if it was Mikko Rantanen instead of Jonas Donskoi, that thing is in the back of the net, but it either went wide or Freddie stopped it. It was chaos! Now watching the Avalanche go to work on the power play was special. I know we've been dumping on the Leafs PK of late. Sometimes you just gotta give credit where credit's due. The Avalanche are incredible. Cody Ceci blocks a shot and he's hobbled. He's having difficulty getting around. That frees up some space for the Avalanche. I don't really think there's anything anyone could have done here. People are pointing at Morgan Rielly. Dude, he was alone back there. And you can yell at Cody Ceci, well, he was fine. He played the rest of the game. All right, you block it then. Credit where credit's due. The Avalanche, first of all, they wounded Ceci. Then they took advantage of it. I don't know what the Leafs are supposed to do there. The Avalanche scored. That's the thing about defending your net, is the other team is trying to score on it at the same time. This is why you tune in. Analysis. Oh yeah, and don't bother acknowledging that it was bar in. Like, it was a perfectly placed shot from Burakovsky, who has 11 goals already. His career high 17, and he's gonna hit it by like New Year. Dude, they're good. They're good. It's okay. Score effects are a thing. We're just not used to the Leafs being on the having the lead part of it. In the third period now, 13 minutes to go, the Leafs are reeling. Freddie Anderson does not look right at all. Puck springs loose to... No! Valerie Nichushkin, the choo-choo train, with his first of the season, and get this. Dude, I had such high hopes for this player. I watched him back when I was trapped doing KHL highlights. He played for Traktor Chelyabinsk, who, by the way, let me show you that jersey. Come on, who's not cheering for the angry polar bear? And he got to play with some very good players, as a matter of fact. 10th overall pick, this guy. He only had 9 goals in the 2015-16 campaign. He was looking disappointing, and then he went to the KHL for like a few years. Last year, the 18-19 season, he decides to make his almighty NHL comeback. And he scores 0 goals. 57 games with Dallas last year, 0 goals, 10 assists. I'm looking at his NHL.com game logs. He scored a goal against the New Jersey Devils on March 4th, 2016. Went the final 16 games of the season without scoring a goal, and he hasn't scored since. And I just looked up the goal. You want to see how times change? Jason Spezza was on the ice with him when he scored the goal. Janmark with the assist, and he just powers by Henrique. That's the type of player I thought he was going to be. The choo-choo train, man. He couldn't fail. It's unbelievable how much trouble he's had scoring goals. All Barry needed was the one, and all of a sudden he's a juggernaut. Maybe that's all Nichushkin needs. But Freddie freaking out. Get this little catch here. Kevin Woodley on Twitter, Kevin is in goal is his handle, pointing out that Freddie Anderson had a dented mask from getting hit in the head. Now, Freddie wanted the play to stop. I don't blame the ref for this one. Like, how are you supposed to get their attention in all this chaos to show them that there's a little bend? Like, the strap being undone, your mask coming off. The ref will see that. The dent, I don't know what they're supposed to do. And now it's chaos, and it's a fire drill in the Leaf zone. It's a carnival, it's a circus. People were talking about Cody Ceci playing over 26 minutes in this one. You gotta look at circumstance, and one of the circumstances was that he got hemmed in his own zone for 2 minutes plus. And also, Sheldon Keefe wants to throw out a right-handed defenseman who's gonna shut her down, and his options are Ceci, Barry, and Hall. Who amongst them is the best for a shutdown scenario? It's tough, right? Regardless of your answer, you know none of them is a great answer, right? And Sheldon Keefe, with the amount of time he's behind the bench, like, okay, you guys are defending lead. What do you usually do? First of all, coach, it's adorable that you think we ever have the lead. Second of all, the answer is play Cody Ceci too much. Oh, try it. Sure enough, scramble, wide open net. There it is! The C-save! Holy cow, Cody! Look at this! He's dropping into the butterfly, he's kicking out the leg. That is Nathan McGosh darn Kinnon, dude! Somehow that puck stays out, dying seconds of the game. Cece's wasting time in the corner, Muzzin's wasting time in the corner, Hyman and Tavares in there in support. That is what the new identity of the team is, a team! Leafs take it out, Hyman scores with 0.1 seconds left because trololololo. And the Leafs win a 4-3 game 5-3. Man, you could argue that the Leafs won a 4-4 game 5-3. How on earth didn't the Avalanche tie it? Leafs Nation, all of you, if you have any sportsmanship at all, you gotta take your hat off to the Avs. That is a monstrous team. They're gonna win the West, I'm telling you. And now, Keefe's Leafs are 2-0. Questions? Seriously, Steve? What did you write for today's You Can't Write This Stuff? Barry scoring 2 goals in 2 games and Cody Ceci being nominated for the Norris. I'm kidding. Vezina. Doesn't this feel nice? Peter? It doesn't not feel nice. Are we hyping this too much? Are we allowed to feel again, Steve? No, not at all. I mean, yeah, maybe, okay. But listen, they're 2-0, and it's not just the sample size, though. If you've watched the past 2 games, more importantly, if you've been watching all season, and then you've seen the past 2 games, you know how different this team looks. And maybe we're going to talk about this more in the podcast. We really got to reevaluate how we look at the assistant coaches because they brought in a new head coach and the power play looks different and the PK looks different. The lines and ice time, all that stuff I think are easy paper transactions, easy changes to make. The style of play is legitimately different. And I like it. Is your faith restored the Leafs can make a deep run this season? Man, right now, let's focus on getting in there. Is this a playoff team? I mean, they sure look like it, and they have the talent. All they gotta do is get into a playoff spot. The first and only time Cody Ceci scored as a Leaf, you shouted him out as a Leaf, but not confidently. Given his recent improvements, and that's true, I do believe he's improved recently, can we throw him a bone here? Has Cody Ceci gained our confidence as a Leaf? Okay, I can believe a couple things. I can believe that Cody Ceci has a purpose on this team, can be a helpful NHL player to this team, and also that playing him 26 minutes a night is going to get you killed. On Hockey Night in Canada, they were talking about the St. Louis Blues being there. Obviously, they have too many right-handed defensemen. What a problem to have. I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't. He played a fantastic game there. I think he's played 3 straight pretty gosh darn acceptable games, which is great, but 26 minutes a night en route to a Stanley Cup, I don't think so. So they're not done here. Not a question, but just wait till Trevor Moore gets back. Mike. All right, that is it for this one. We have drained the battery, but there is a brand new Panago Pizza Steve Dangle podcast coming later today. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Sheldon Keefe's Leafs, man. They're watchable.